Hi there, and thank you to everyone for joining the recording of this podcast. I'm really excited to bring you this today. It's on a topic that we've written about in the past. So it's on the topic of gamification. And Archie and I, my colleague from our people and organizational performance practice, are hugely excited to talk about this with you today. Brief introduction to myself. My name's George Holman. I'm a partner in our EMEA banking and markets practice. A lot of what I do is around the delivery of complex change for our clients, but actually I've got a real passion for learning, development, helping people from a kind of behavioural and cultural perspective as well. So this is a really nice topic for us to cover. Archie, could I ask you to introduce yourself, but could you also, for anyone who's not familiar with gamification, give a bit of an explanation what it's all about?
Sure. Thank you, George. May I start by saying that I'm really happy to be recording this podcast with you and talking about a topic that is so close to my heart. So thank you for being so passionate about learning and development at all times and bringing me in. So a quick introduction. My name is Archana Iyer. People call me Archie. Everybody who likes me calls me Archie. And I'm a director with the PNOP team, People and Organizational Performance at Davies. Gamification is something that's absolutely close to my heart. The reason is I'm passionate about teaching, learning, and discovering new ways of doing things in a fun manner. I think one of my core qualities as I grew up was that I was an individual who was lazy. And I like that quality about me because that's always made me try and find shortcuts to learning. And gamification, I think, is one of the shortest ways to learn something in the most fun, engaging manner very quickly. What is gamification? Very simply, it's introducing game elements in any kind of learning. And it could be something simple as learning things in the form of a rhythm. It could be adding points or making it a competition, anything. Gamification is very vast. But what that does is it engages different parts of your brain. I won't get into the research of that right now. And it helps you learn faster, engage better, and retain information for much longer. So there's a lot of research on it. So that's gamification.
That was really helpful. Thank you, Archie. So I think you were going to put me to the test a little bit next, and we were going to do an exercise to kind of prove some of the thinking.
Yes. So I wanted to just play a short game, George. This was a game we introduced long back for our clients, and this is a fun game that we use, and I'll tell you what the message of the game is after we play it. So I want you to go in blind. I want you to just start the game, and then we talk about the debriefing, and then you can tell me if this is something that you can use to teach somebody something else. So I'll ask you for that. Okay. All right. So do you have a paper and a pen? Or do you have anything to draw on?
Here's one I made earlier. Yes, I'm ready.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe a drawing that I've already done. And I am just going to describe it once. I'm not going to keep repeating it, but I'll describe it very clearly. I just want you to follow my instructions and keep drawing along with me. Is that okay?
That's okay. You'll have to excuse my art skills, but yes.
Awesome. So start at the center of the page.
Okay.
And at the center of the page, draw a slightly squashed heart. Slightly squashed heart in the center of the page. Below the slightly squashed heart, draw a rectangular brick.
Okay.
Below the brick, draw a human face, but with exaggerated proportions, like big eyes, big mouth, and so on.
Okay.
Below the face, draw a neck and the rest of the body. The rest of the body is wearing a t-shirt and shorts and has hands placed on the hip like this.
Okay.
T-shirt, shorts, and hands on the hip like this. And of course, wearing shoes. Okay.
Yep.
On the t-shirt, great, you're quick. On the t-shirt, I want you to write hi, exclamation point, cutie. Just a fun thing. Hi, exclamation point, cutie.
I'm running out of space, but yes, okay.
Okay. On the four corners of the page now, where you have this entire drawing, I want you to draw 4 hearts, one on each corner, one heart on each corner.
Done.
Okay, great. And on top of the squashed heart on the right-hand top, draw a feather-like structure. The squashed heart in the center that you drew.
A feather-like structure. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Done.
If you're done, George, can I see your drawing?
You can. Please don't laugh.
That is fantastic. That is lovely. Do you want to see the original drawing that I referred to?
Please.
Can you see it?
Oh, I can, yeah. Markedly different. Very different.
Yeah. So it was actually a Donald Duck, right?
Okay.
Now, George, we use this game, and what do you think the point of this game is? Like, what do you think?
So off the top of my head, I would say what we've just described is someone depicting something or verbally describing something and how that can be interpreted differently by different people. Is that a good guess?
Very good guess.
Okay.
So yes, it is, right? We use this game to demonstrate what we call the curse of knowledge. When we talk to senior leaders about making presentations, and we're talking about experts in their field, right? Technologists and people who are experts in their field. And when they're making presentations, they tend to focus a lot on the details. And they explain it in a manner that they see it in their heads. And it gets lost in translation. And they're not able to influence their stakeholders. So this is a simple analogy we use to talk to them. So in this game, if I had told you, George, draw a Donald Duck and simplified it and said, draw hearts, do you think your painting would have matched mine a lot better?
It wouldn't have been as good as yours, Archie, but it would have been more similar. Yeah.
Exactly. It would have been similar. Yep. Your understanding would have been on the same page. But instead, because I'm an expert at this, I wanted to tell you exaggerated human proportions, this, that, etc., which is useless to you, honestly, right? And this small analogy, believe me, George, when we do this, it immediately clicks with people rather than just telling them, oh, simplify your presentation or do this or do that. Just doing something like this, people remember it for years. And they come back and they say, oh, I remember I do this Donald Duck. I still remember it when I do the presentation. But that's the power of gamification. It's a very simple example. I mean, gamification is a lot more complex and there are a lot more layers, but yeah.
Got it. That was
so,
really
George,
helpful.
I wanted to check. Absolutely. Thank you, George, for saying that. So I wanted to ask you one question since we're talking about gamification. What is the greatest challenge your clients currently face in banking and markets, which can maybe solve through something in learning and development? So what is the greatest challenge your clients face?
Okay, so if I think about, I mean, obviously there are lots of challenges facing banks and our clients at the moment. I think if I think about the greatest challenge that I think could be assisted by learning and development, I would say it's around agility. So we speak with a lot of our clients around agile and waterfall, trying to be more incremental, trying to deliver value faster, and trying to get that right mix and right balance.
Okay, and why do you think this exists as a challenge? Why do you think agility is a challenge?
So I think it's a challenge, again, for a number of reasons. I would say probably the main challenge I would see that we hear most about is the ability or fear that it's not possible to deliver agility in a highly regulated environment. So, when we're dealing with really complex change that is very important to regulators, that's very important to the clients of the organizations, agility feels like it's quite a way off. It feels like it's difficult to achieve.
And you believe it's not? Is that correct? As an expert in this area, you believe that it's something that will be helpful?
Absolutely. I think agility and delivering value faster to your customers is absolutely is possible, and it should be something we're pursuing more.
Fantastic. So here's just one simple, and I'm not an expert, obviously, but I just want to, based on what you just shared, here's a simple question that I'm going to ask you. So let's say you had to train your client on why agility is better than a regular waterfall approach, etc. And you gave them pointers after pointers, you gave them data and research and statistics. That may change their mind. Of course, it will help a little bit. But let's say instead of that, you have the option to give them a simulated environment, a simulated game where they could actually experience for themselves, the how much agility could help over, a structured environment, something where they actually saw it for real. Which one do you think the takeaway would be, much more impressive and greater? Obviously,
so I think if you had an element of fun introduced to learning around agility, which in itself
yeah,
can be quite technical and there are a lot of principles involved around it, I think it could help with the initial learning, but then also it would make me want to remember the content more.
exactly. Exactly. And it will also connect with you more because you're actually doing it. And we also say this, that learners are of different kinds, right? Everybody is
Mm,
not a visual auditory learner. We have kinesthetic learners who want to actually experience things, who don't believe unless they experience something. There are some visual learners, there are still some kinesthetic learners. Also, people process information very differently based on their types, etc. So a gamified environment to support your normal learning methodology, not to replace, and I'm very careful
mhm.
when I say this, is to support your normal learning methodology, is something that could be groundbreaking. And it has been groundbreaking in multiple arenas. There's so much research to show that kids in school learn better when things are simulated, when the whole brain is utilized over just one or two areas of the brain, right? So that was what I just wanted to share with you, George, today. That
Can
was
I
basically,
can I
yeah,
ask you a follow-up question, Archie? Because you mentioned a term there,
absolutely.
and I'm sorry if I'm kinesthetic learning. Did you say that's not
Yes,
something I've come
yes,
across before? Would you mind just explaining what that is?
absolutely. So kinesthetic learning, in layman language, it involves using your body to learn something, but it's interpreted differently. So people say it is to use your body to learn something. Instead of watching someone cook, actually doing the process of cooking, so things become muscle memory for you. That's kinesthetic learning. But it also means to be in an environment where you're experiencing it, where your body and mind are both experiencing what is going on, and therefore you learn better and faster. Because obviously, learning doesn't only happen here; it happens in multiple ways and in multiple spaces. So yes, it's also the emotions, the effect that produces on your body. They all contribute to how much you learn and how well you learn. So yeah,
Okay. And
does
and
that
I think
does that
no,
answer the question?
that's really helpful. It's just a term I've not really heard before. And I guess another just small follow-up question would be, as a learning professional, someone who
Mm-hmm.
delivers, interventions around culture and behavior as part of their day job, how
Mm-hmm.
how much more success do you think can be achieved through using techniques such as gamification?
Oh, I think tremendous amounts of success. Even if I can't put a number on it quantifiably, but I think one of the things that could be achieved definitely is greater retention of content. Like currently, we use a lot of methods to teach content, right? And I keep saying whole brain. We only talk to parts of the brain which retain facts, like your Wernicke's area in your brain, your Broca's area in your brain, etc. So these
Mm,
are the ones which get lit up when we do facts, right? So retention is harder. So you come back a year later and you ask that person, what is that methodology you learned on problem solving, for example? They may or may not remember it. But if you are in a game and you've participated and you had your emotional component added to it, you had some music added to it, you've laughed around it, you
mm.
played, you've used your body in some way, then you remember it, and then connecting it is better. So that way, I think it will make a huge difference to L&D in every context, to retain information faster and better.
That's really interesting. I think what a lot of what we hear is around, you know, spending on the right things, and actually if you're getting a greater
Mhm.
return on your investment by making knowledge more sticky, making it more retainable, then that's going to be something definitely worth pursuing.
That's the best word that you use, making content and knowledge more sticky. I love that word. I think that's exactly what gamification can do. And of course, it's also something that people will look forward to when you
Mm,
invite somebody to, say, play a murder mystery to learn influencing. You have a lot more people signing up rather than, just say, oh, listen to a boring lecture on how to influence, for example, right?
Yep.
So it's win-win-win. The only thing I see, and sometimes this is where my resistance is, in George, maybe you could help me with that, is people think it's just a fun thing to do, and especially in an environment like banking, they don't look at gamification with the same level of importance and pride that you look at normal learning. They look at it as, oh, something to be done for junior members, something to be done for an offsite, right? And I think this comes from our school learning methods and how we've been taught that everything has to be a certain level of seriousness and everything has to be a certain way. And I really want to challenge these norms. So what do you think? How do you think people will respond? And coming from your banking background, what do you think we can do here?
It's interesting because amongst working in banks in highly regulated organizations, a lot of the training we do is very technical. We have to do a lot of compliance training, which tends to be done online, and the subject matter is, it can be quite dry, but obviously it's very important because, for various reasons. But what I think can look to do, and I think what I'm hearing from yourself, Archie, is this can be complementary. So it's not either or, it's both. And it sounds a bit cliched, but learning can be fun, and it probably should be fun, in that if we're trying to, put knowledge and upskill our colleagues and our teams, why not make it fun? Why not make it something memorable that they to your point, they look forward to, but also they're going to hold on to better? I think it sounds like something that is definitely worth exploring alongside kind of the core technical training that probably has to be delivered in a more traditional way.
Thank you, George, for saying that. That's fantastic, because I think I mean, you've been convinced about gamification when we've spoken and we've collaborated earlier as well on this. And I think a lot of people recognize it, but it's important to talk more about it and to promote it more and to get our clients also okay with the idea. I'm sure once they experience the benefits of it, they will see that this is something that they can go back to. And you rightly said, it's not a replacement, it's a supplement to what's already happening. And of course, we can follow all the norms and the rules and make it as fun as possible. But having fun while learning is not bad. And that's the last thing I'll say. Having fun while learning is really not bad. It's actually beneficial. It's actually helpful. And it's actually one of the better things you can do. So, yeah. That's
great.
It from
Thank
me,
you.
George. Thank you for calling me on the podcast.
Thank you, Archie. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me and talk about a topic that obviously you and I are so passionate about. We'd love to hear from people, and that's to talk about this topic. If you are a learning and development professional, you're in HR, you manage a team of people, and you want to look to do some training in a different way, Archie and I and our teams would love to have that conversation with you. But equally, if you have feedback for us on this as a podcast, if there's things you'd like us to talk about, we'd love for you to get in touch. So just kind of remains for me to say thank you again to Archie. Thank you again to everyone who's tuned in, and we look forward to doing more of these soon.
Thank you so much.